start in just a sec. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, my guest today was referred by a previous guest on the show, a doctor named Dr. Shireen Kassam, and her name is Jane Thurnell-Read, and she is going to be talking about natural remedies for menopause problems. Hint, it's not all about the hormones. Please welcome Jane to the show. It's very nice to meet you all the way from England.
That's right. Yes. Yes, it's evening here. But I think it's 11 a.m. with you, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it is. That's the regular show time. Do you know any of the other doctors from England that come on the show, like Janie Goddard, for example?
I've met some of them. Some of them I know via, via the internet. Yeah.
That's so cool.
I'm actually not a doctor. I need to make that clear. I'm actually not a doctor. I'm just somebody who's passionate about reading the medical and scientific research.
Well, that's okay.
Extracting the practical information from that.
Well, you do not have to be a doctor to be on this show, just so you know, because your experience is just enough to qualify you as somebody who's been following a vegan diet for some time, that's had improvements, and that's what people like to know.
Yeah, great.
Great. Well, did you want to start with your presentation, or do you want to just talk a little bit about your story? You tell me.
Okay, I'll just talk a bit about me. I first went vegetarian when I was 11 because I didn't like the idea of killing animals. That didn't work out because my mum didn't give me anything to replace the meat and I got ill. Eventually I became vegetarian in my 20s, and I was vegetarian well into my 60s. And then I became vegan in 2015. So I've been vegan since then. So it's actually nearly 8 years now.
Fantastic. Did you find it was harder to go from to vegetarian, or to go from vegetarian to vegan?
Oh, definitely to go vegetarian. But that was like, I'm talking about the 1960s, then. You had to make everything yourself. You had to be whole food if you were vegetarian then, because there wasn't all this, fake meat and stuff like that. So it was very much a matter of making everything yourself.
Are we allowed to ask how old you are?
I'm 75.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, I would say this is what a vegan diet does for you, and exercising.
That's terrific. Yeah, well, I know that most of my audience is women, and a lot of them are perimenopause, around that age, and they suffer tremendously, especially with things like hot flashes,
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I really want to talk about. In the UK, we call them hot flushes. So I may use the term hot flushes some of the time, but it's what you would call hot flashes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Hot flushes. Well, flash, but people, they're very uncomfortable for people who suffer from them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's the remedy? Are you familiar with Dr. Bernard's book? He always talks about having soy.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I talk about in the presentation. There's some really concrete evidence about what to do about hot flushes.
Well, I cannot wait to see it. I love PowerPoints, and thank you for doing them, because I always, when my eye goes to a screen, I pay more attention.
Yeah, well, hopefully this will work this time as well.
Great. Well, thanks. I can't wait.
So, shall I share my screen now?
Yes, please.
Oh.
See, yep, perfect. Yep, you got it perfectly, Jane. Thank you.
So, natural remedies for menopause problems. It's not all about hormones. So, let's have a look. The way people talk about the menopause is always that hormone changes equal menopause symptoms. So if you're going through the menopause, you're going to have symptoms, you're going to have hot flushes, you're going to put on weight, trouble sleeping, brain fag, all this sort of stuff. And you're told, and you believe, most people, that it's all down to the hormone changes at that time. I want to show you a slightly different story. So, not all women experience menopause in the same way. And let's have a look at some of the ways. So rural Greek women, for example, they report far fewer problems during the menopause. For them, for most of them, It's just something that happens as they go through life. It's not this big upheaval it is for a lot of people in the US, the UK, and other countries. In Japan, women do experience menopause problems, but they complain about headaches, chilliness, and shoulder stiffness. Those are the most troublesome menopausal symptoms. Now, very few people, some people obviously do get chilliness and shoulder stiffness, but not that many. I very rarely hear people in the UK, people in the US talking about those sort of symptoms. So the Japanese women are experiencing the menopause, but they're having different symptoms. Now, what's that about? If it was simply hormones, the changing hormones equal menopause symptoms, then that's what you would expect everybody to experience, the same sort of thing. Here, they don't mention hot flashes, which is one of the biggies for people in the US and the UK and other countries. So why are there these differences? Well, it's partly down to how different societies view older women. If you think about rural Greece, in rural Greece, older women are viewed as being wise, knowledgeable, at the heart of the family. They have a traditional role. It's very different to how older women are viewed in the US. Diet and lifestyle, and I'll be covering a lot more about that in a minute. So it's maybe some of the differences, or all of the differences even, are down to diet and lifestyle. And the other thing is, we actually don't know for sure why there are these differences, but it seems to be mainly, but possibly not exclusively, how different societies view older women and diet and lifestyle. Even within societies, there are variations. There was a study done, and it found that there were three different experiences of menopause. The first one was menopause as a normal biological process, a bit like those Greek women. The second one is a menopause as a struggle involving identity loss, shame, and a changing place in society. And this is what many people in North America and so on, that's how they experience it. And the third group of women, they said that they experienced menopause as transformative and liberating. They were no longer had the risk of getting pregnant and so on, that they found it very liberating. So even within societies, there are variations. So this idea that hormone changes equal menopause symptoms, it just doesn't add up. It's better to say hormone changes don't equal menopause symptoms. So I want to look at three common menopausal problems: weight gain, sleep disturbances, and those hot flashes that we talked about earlier. So if you believe that you're gaining weight because of the menopause, what do you think? Well, you probably think there's nothing you can do about it. So you might as well reach for that extra donut. Or you may think, well, I wonder if HRT would help. Would that stop me putting on weight? So you actually don't feel it's within your control if you believe that you're gaining weight because of the menopause. There was a study in Australia, and they looked at three groups of women. Women who had an early menopause, so that's at early 40s, women who experienced a normal menopause, and women who experienced a late menopause, so into the 50s. And they found that all the women gained weight at the same time. Now, that doesn't make sense if the weight gain is caused by the menopause, because if the weight gain is caused by the menopause, you'd expect the women who had an early menopause to put on weight in their 40s, the people who experienced a late menopause to put on weight in their 50s, but that's not what happened. And the lead researcher for this said that the idea that menopause causes women to gain weight is a myth. And she went on to say it's really just a consequence of environmental factors, and that includes lifestyle. and aging, which cause the weight gain. So we attribute it, what she's saying is we attribute it to the menopause, but the research says it's not the menopause, it's about aging and it's about environmental factors, lifestyle choices and other things. And we'll come back to that, of course. Another study said they weren't quite so dogmatic, but they said it remains unclear whether excessive weight gain and changes in fat distribution are because of the menopause or are related to the process of aging and or to changing lifestyle factors. Okay, so if you believe that your weight gain is because of the menopause, then you think there's nothing you can do about it, or the only solution is to take HRT. If you believe that the menopause is due to lifestyle factors, then you can start to look at those lifestyle factors, and we'll look at those in a bit of detail. Menopause sleep disturbances. Okay, so if you believe that you sleep badly because of the menopause, then what can you do? Maybe you take HRT. Maybe you swear and curse the menopause, but there's not a lot you can do. But again, the research shows that some US researchers came to the conclusion that premenopausal sleep status was the strongest predictor of poor sleep in the menopause transition. In other words, if you're already sleeping badly, you'll go on sleeping badly in the menopause. That's a very, very different idea from the idea that suddenly you've started to sleep badly. So if you understand that you're maybe sleeping worse, but you're probably not sleeping well beforehand, then that tells you, okay, it's not about the menopause, it's about my lifestyle. It's about sleep hygiene. It's about, having alcohol late at night, which causes sleep disturbances and so on. There's lots of things that you can address. And again, we'll come back to all that. So hot flashes, hot flushes. Now, people say to me, those absolutely are down to the hormones. And if you believe that your hot flashes are solely because of hormonal changes, then what can you do? Okay, you can take HRT, you can curse, you can get a fan, you can layer clothes, so you can take clothes on and off, all this sort of things you can do. But really, it's not in your control. Well, let me show you, whenever I show people this slide or tell them about these statistics, they are always amazed. So hot flushes or hot flashes have been reported by about 10% of women in China. This is obviously menopausal women in China, 17% of women in Singapore, 22% of women in Japan, and 75% of women in the United States. So only 10% of women in China and 75% of women in the United States. Now, if hot flashes were solely caused by the hormone changes of menopause, then you would expect all these countries would have the same percentage, give or take, of women complaining about the menopause. But they don't. There's a huge difference between 10% of women in China and 75% of women in the United States. So this suggests it's not all down to hormones. So hormone changes get blamed for too much. Yeah, we need to think about it, and it actually puts power back with you, because the normal explanation of menopause actually has women in the throes of menopause, in the throes of victims of their hormones and so on. There's nothing they can do about it. But what I'm saying is that actually hormones get blamed for too much, and there is things you can do about it. So let's have a look. I've written this book, Menopause Weight Loss, and I just wanted to share this review that was on Amazon with you. And the reason is because this actually summarizes what I'm trying to say here. So the bit that's highlighted in yellow, this reader said, like many women I know, I assumed I was a slave to my hormones and had little control over the menopause-related changes to my mind and body. I am unable to take HRT, So I figured I would just have to suffer until my hormones leveled off later in life. Not so. This book has really inspired me to make some relatively simple lifestyle changes, and I'm already noticing a difference. I definitely recommend this book to anyone experiencing confusion or helplessness around menopause. And that's, I think, the big message here is I want to remove that helplessness around the menopause, to disconnect the idea that it's all to do with your hormones and there's not really anything you can do about it other than suffer or shout and scream and curse or take HRT. It's not the only choices. So what I hope to convince you is that your menopause symptoms are a gift. It's a message about your life. The symptoms you have are like, it's like biofeedback from your body telling you that there's something wrong. It's telling you what you need to do to live well now and into a healthy old age. Because as you'll see, what research shows helps to reduce or even eliminate menopausal symptoms is exactly the same things as we need to do to live into a healthy old age. Now, in the US, 80% of people over 65 have at least one chronic disease. And it's an appalling figure. 68% have two or more. This time of the menopause is a time when your body's telling you, make changes now, make changes now, make changes now, and you will benefit now in having fewer menopausal symptoms. But if you make changes now, you're less likely to be one of those people, the 80% of over 65s who have at least one chronic disease, or the 68% who have two or more chronic diseases. So this time of the menopause can be a time for you to adjust your life in the way you need to do it so that you can have a healthy menopause, not necessarily completely symptom-free, but a manageable menopause, and you can also live into a healthy old age. So what can you do? I'm going to cover 5 things fairly briefly. So what you eat and drink, exercise, cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, and some herbal remedies as well. And what in doing that, in looking at all these, I'm looking at the research. I'm not looking at what some influencer says. I look at the research. I tend not to give the references here because it just makes it the presentation totally unwieldy. But I do have the references so that people can look things up if they want them. So what you eat and drink, Chef AJ knows how important this is. People, for all sorts of reasons, to prevent type 2 diabetes, to prevent chronic ill health, for mental health and so on. So, but I want to look at it just in relation to the menopause. So over 17,000 postmenopausal US women aged 50 to 79 took part in a weight loss study over 1 year. It involved reducing fat and increasing fruit, vegetables and fiber intake. I can hear Chef AJ cheering at this point. Okay.
Yay!
The women reported a reduction or elimination of vasomotor symptoms. Vasomotor symptoms is the medical term for hot flashes and night sweats. And the researchers concluded these results support the use of weight loss and healthy dietary changes as alternative approaches to hormone therapy for the relief of vasomotor symptoms, right? So a lot of these women, over the year, that it eliminated the symptoms for them, the ones who followed the diet. Another study compared perimenopausal women who were vegans with omnivores. And again, the researchers found that vegans reported fewer bothersome physical symptoms, including hot flashes and night sweats. And so they advocated more vegetables and less flesh food for, to help with menopausal symptoms. Yet another study, this one in Iran, found that those women who followed a diet with lots of fruit and vegetables had fewer menopausal symptoms. So these are things we already know, and Chef AJ and her guests talk about a lot, the importance of veggies and fruit. Also, fiber. A study in Korea found that premenopausal women were less likely to be depressed if they ate adequate amounts of fiber. An Iranian study who found that women who ate high quality carbohydrates, so by that they meant ones with a low glycemic index and containing lots of fiber, they had fewer physical and psychological symptoms of the menopause. And that's a similar result was also found in a study in Ghana. So again, these are things that we advocate for all sorts of reasons. If you want to live into a healthy old age, you need to eat fruit, veggies, fiber. They're really, really, a real important central part of what you're doing to get healthy into your old age. So, but by doing this now during the menopause, you can benefit even more. So change what you eat again, Mediterranean diet. 6 researchers from Italy found that following the Mediterranean diet in menopause leads to a reduced risk of becoming overweight, obese. Remember what they said before, that the diet, you put weight on because of aging, not because of the menopause. A reduced risk of high blood pressure, a reduced risk of type 2 diabetes, and an improvement in menopausal symptoms. Sugar. Eating sugar can be delightful, but too much sugar can also be a real problem. Eating sugar can result in a spike in your blood sugar, and then later it drops to normal level. And there's been some research that suggested, and I wouldn't put it any stronger than that, but it does actually make sense, that drop in blood sugar is linked to an experience of having a hot flush. So that, and that inevitably happens after you have the sugar, that you get that spike in your blood pressure, blood sugar that then drops. So salt, 9,000 women in Korea, and they looked at the salt intake, and they found that high sodium intake, high salt intake was associated with lower bone mineral content and lower bone mineral density. In other words, you're on your way to osteoporosis. And I know that's something that a lot of menopausal women worry about. And that's one reason that women actually decide to take HRT, is because it's protective of the bones. But another possibility is to reduce your salt intake. And if you reduce your salt intake, then you're benefiting yourself in many, many, many ways. The research suggests that after you've gone through the menopause, your blood pressure is affected more by a high salt diet. So it's even more important than when you're younger that you reduce your salt intake. It's like everything else. You can get away with so much when you're young. You can drink a lot of alcohol and get up and work a normal day the next day. And as you get older, you can't do that. And actually salt is similar. As you get older, you can't, you will start to have health implications if you keep to a high salt diet. Now, soy, there's a study published by the North American Menopause Society of a low-fat vegan diet with the addition of half a cup of whole soya beans each day. They found a reduced frequency and severity of hot flashes, improved quality of life. And during the 12-week study period, the majority of the intervention group participants, so they were divided into 2 groups. The intervention, during the 12-week study, the majority of the intervention group participants became free of moderate to severe hot flashes. So that's a sort of major benefit. And we know soy is beneficial in other ways as well. I know some people disagree with that, but I spent a lot of time reading around the subject, and it seems to me the scientific evidence is predominantly that soy is good for us, not bad for us. Soy in the form of ultra-processed food, mock meats and so on, that may be a different story, but more traditional tofu, soya beans, edamame beans and so on, they seem to be beneficial. Change what you drink coffee. A study where they gave questionnaires to 1,800 women who were bothered by menopausal problems. And the analysis showed those who had high caffeine consumption, so drank lots of coffee, etc., were also likely to have more hot flashes and night sweats. Another study found caffeinated beverages had the same effect as well. So drinking less coffee. Alcohol's interesting. The North American Menopause Society says drinking may trigger hot flashes, but there isn't enough research. I've spoken to several women about this, and they've said, there was a woman in my gym, and her and I used to talk in the changing room. She kept saying, "Oh, the menopause is driving me mad. I feel dreadful. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Hot flashes, everything else." And she was, she said, "I'm brain dead," and so on. And then she actually talked to her PT, and they looked at her alcohol consumption, and her alcohol consumption was high. And she decided she was going to cut out the alcohol completely. And she said to me, "Do you know what?" She said, "My menopause symptoms have gone." She said, "All those symptoms that I said were caused by the menopause, they weren't. They were caused by the alcohol. And now I've stopped the alcohol. I have no menopause symptoms at all, other than like periods stopping, but none of the other symptoms." So I think research will eventually catch up with the personal experience of quite a lot of women and show that alcohol above a certain level is certainly contributes to menopausal symptoms. So exercise. I have to be careful about this because I'm a huge fan of exercise. So I could talk about this for the next 3 hours, and but I won't. Maybe I'll persuade Chef AJ to invite me back and talk about that. So research has shown that women who maintain or increase their level of physical activity during menopause tend to come out the other end without gaining weight. So it's important to exercise for all sorts of reasons, but one of them is if you exercise through the menopause, you're less likely to gain weight. What a professor at Penn State University has said, in general, women who are relatively inactive or are overweight or obese tend to have a risk of increased symptoms of perceived hot flashes. So if you're overweight, if you don't take much exercise, either of those or both of those, then you've got an increased risk of perceived hot flashes. During the menopause, there's a reduction in estrogen, which leads to a decline in muscle mass. And a decline in muscle mass means that you're less strong, you have poorer posture, and all sorts of other problems. A study of over 1,000 women found that physical activity was positively associated with the maintenance of muscle mass during the menopausal transition. So it's really worth exercising to help you look as young as possible. Most of us want to do that during the menopause, and it's not too late. Whenever you start, it's never too late. So the assistant professor at Penn State University said, oh, I've done that twice. Sorry, let me move on. Right. People sometimes say to me, I can't exercise because I have a low back pain. That's the most common one. I have osteoporosis, or I have a tendency to osteoporosis. I have osteoarthritis. I have had cancer, or I'm having cancer treatment. And I don't have time, obviously, to go into this in any degree of detail. But what I would want to say to you is the research says that for all of these conditions, exercise is important. When I first started going to the gym in my 60s, and I had sciatic, I was constantly getting this sciatic pain down my right side, and it was very troublesome. And within about 3 months of going to the gym regularly, the sciatic pain disappeared completely. I used to find it quite difficult to stand for very long. I'd get low back pain if I stood for more than about 5 minutes. I'd need to find a wall to lean against or find a chair. That's all gone. And the you know, the medical profession, at one time it was, oh, you've got low back pain, you mustn't do anything, you must rest. That's now not the current medical view. It's much more strongly that if you've got low back pain, you should be exercising. Obviously, you need to be cautious, but what you need to do is build up the muscles, build up the your core strength, and that will then support your lower back. People will say, I have osteoporosis, I shouldn't go exercising. There was a position paper in the UK last year from a lot of osteoporosis experts, and they said all the research says it's preventive. Exercise is preventive of osteoporosis, particularly strength training. Even people with stress fractures from caused by osteoporosis should still be exercising. Obviously, they have to do it cautiously and they would need support, but you need to do it. If you've got osteoarthritis, you should still exercise. People find that hard to believe. One of the big US arthritis charities had, I don't know if it still does, a strapline which was movement is medicine. And I love the other, what somebody said to me, which is motion is lotion. And so that's true. If you've had cancer, if you're having cancer treatment, even in the middle of cancer treatment, a lot of people benefit from exercising. And exercise helps prevent cancer, and it's very beneficial afterwards as well, after when you've completed all your treatments. So I don't exercise because I'm too fat, I'm too tired, I'm depressed. People will laugh at me. I can't afford it. I don't have time. It's too late. None of these are true. Again, I don't have time to talk about this in any degree of detail, but it's really important to consider exercise needs to be a fundamental part of everybody's life. We are designed to exercise. I know people say, well, I can't afford it. I'd like to recommend the website hasfit.com, hasfit.com. It's a brilliant website that has a lot of free workout videos, and it includes workout videos for people who need to sit down to do them. They're workout videos you can do at home. There are 5-minute workout videos. There are 30-minute workout videos. They've got lots and lots of different ones. You'll find something you can do. So that deals with the I can't afford it because it doesn't cost anything. I'm too fat. People will laugh at me. Again, you could do the HasFit ones. I don't have time. You do have time. You just use it to do other things. It's a matter of moving it up your priorities. It's too late. It's never, ever, ever too late. The research shows that if people start exercising in their 80s, it's still beneficial. So no matter how old you are, it's not too late for you to start exercising. And you'll feel the benefit. You'll feel the benefit in terms of menopause and your menopausal symptoms. And you'll also feel the benefit in the rest of your life. Exercise is very good for your mental health, for helping you keep weight off, and all sorts of different ways. So yeah, highly recommend. Yoga, for a study of this, a lot of studies now of yoga, and it's shown that it's really helpful for menopause symptoms. A study of integral yoga found that women in a yoga group reported a decrease of approximately 66% in hot flash frequency. And the US National Institute of Health says yoga may be helpful and may help lessen pain and menopause symptoms. Cognitive behavioral therapy, there's lots of evidence that that's helpful. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps you change the way you think about things. It's been found to be very helpful for the shame and embarrassment that a lot of women experience alongside hot flashes. So if you're somebody who feels like embarrassed, everybody's looking at me, I know they're looking at me while I'm having a hot flash, looking at cognitive behavioral therapy for that and for other symptoms, it can be really, really helpful. And the British Menopause Society says it can be helpful for a range of health problems, including anxiety and stress, depressed mood, hot flushes and night sweats, sleep problems, and fatigue. So definitely have a look at cognitive behavioral therapy. Still on cognitive behavioral therapy, the North American Menopause Society said it's been shown to be effective in reducing hot flashes and night sweats. So again, this is another approach you can look at for hot flashes and night sweats. I think part of it is because it helps get rid of the self-talk that's going on about everybody's looking at me, everybody can see. Because obviously, if you're having a hot flash and you think everybody's looking at you and everybody can see how sweaty and hot you are, that's actually makes you more anxious. So it's actually likely to make the hot flash worse in some way. And if you can get rid of that thinking, that negative thinking that's going on, then it can help to lessen them. So it's definitely worth thinking about for that. Mindfulness, various studies have shown that mindfulness is effective. People always like this, I don't know quite why. One study found that it reduced the bothersomeness of hot flashes in menopausal women. People seem to like that word, bothersomeness. So they were less bothered by them. And it led to improvements in anxiety, stress, self-reported sleep quality, and just general quality of life. So that's definitely something you should be thinking about. And mindfulness is just generally useful. I like the Headspace app, but there are lots and lots of different apps. There's lots and lots of different information on the web about mindfulness. So do take a look if you aren't familiar with it already. One of the things I would say about mindfulness is people often say, oh, I tried it, but it didn't work because I kept on thinking about other things and I'm not supposed to be thinking about it. And it's really not like that. What it's about is learning to actually bring your mind back from distractions. So you're actually practicing bringing your mind back from distractions. You're not practicing sitting there thinking about nothing. And so, in learning to do that, you learn then to do that in your everyday life as well. So herbal remedies, the Women's Health Concern website says it's St. John's wort is beneficial in relieving vasomotor symptoms, which we know are hot flashes and night sweats, particularly in women with a history of or at high risk of breast cancer. But they warn that it interacts with some other drugs, for example, in antidepressants and digoxin. So you shouldn't be taking it if you're on those drugs. And women on tamoxifen shouldn't take St. John's wort, as it makes the tamoxifen ineffective. And obviously you don't want that. But that remedy has been found in double-blind trials and so on to be effective for hot flushes and night sweats. Fennel seeds. A study of 80 women taking fennel seeds saw a significant improvement in menopausal symptoms in postmenopausal women. The dose is so low, it's 2 grams or 0.07 ounces each day for 8 weeks. So it's I actually I ought to have weighed that, but I mean it can't be very. 2 grams is very few fennel seeds. So they took them every day for 8 weeks, and it improved menopausal symptoms for women. So that's certainly something worth thinking about. It didn't have an effect on estradiol levels or on sexual desire, but it did have effect on other menopausal symptoms. So that's an option that's worth thinking about. Ginseng. Ginseng has been found to be effective for relieving menopausal symptoms and is good for help to protect against cardiovascular disease in postmenopausal women. So that's, again, something that you could think about. But the central pillars are that diet of, I wanted to talk about herbal remedies, but it's not like, should I, eat more veggies, eat more fruit, eat fiber, or should I take ginseng? It's not like, that's not what I would suggest you do. Remember, you need to get the diet right for the rest of your life. So you're not one of those 80% of over 65s who have at least one chronic condition, or the 68%, really high number, who have 2 or more chronic diseases. Chronic diseases mean you're in pain, you're in discomfort, maybe you're dependent on other people. You don't want that at 65. If you've got that at 60, 65, what are you going to be like by 75, 85, and so on? So changing your diet is one of the fundamental things, adding the exercise in, thinking about things like yoga, mindfulness, and so on, and the herbal supplement. My own experience of the menopause, I actually didn't have, I didn't have many symptoms of the menopause. And at the time, I thought I was just lucky compared with friends who had really dreadful times, dreadful situations. And it wasn't until I wrote my book on the menopause that I realized, actually, because as I said to Chef AJ at the beginning, I was a whole food vegetarian at the time of the menopause. I was also doing quite a lot of long distance cycle riding. So I had the whole food diet, the veggies, the fruit, the fiber, and the exercise. So looking back, the reason I didn't have a horrendous menopause, I'm sure, was a large part because of having those 2 things in place already. But I did get hot flushes, and what I came to see, and this was long before I wrote the book and started to think about how these symptoms are biofeedback mechanisms from your body to tell you that things are wrong. But I realized that I used to get hot flushes when, for example, if I hadn't been sleeping very well for 2 or 3 nights, I would then, the next day, I would have a lot of hot flushes. If I'd had an argument with somebody and it hadn't got resolved, I would then have hot flushes. So there were various things in my life that would mean that I would start to have a lot of hot flushes. So what I started to do when I had a lot of hot flushes was like, okay, so what's happened? What's causing this? And so during that time, I learned how important it was that I got good sleep, how important it was that I didn't drink too much alcohol, how important it was that I didn't walk away from arguing with people without a resolution, where I was still really angry and annoyed. So I learned these things because my body was telling me, and I really feel that it's helped me. It like helped me set where I needed to be for the rest of my life. How I needed to look, how I needed to see sleep as being important, how I needed to watch the amount of alcohol I was drinking, how I needed to try and either not get angry or resolve my anger and deal with the situation rather than just stewing on it. So I learned a lot from that. But as I say, I didn't have a particularly bad menopause, and I think I didn't put on weight because I had that all those veggies, fruit, fiber. And I also was exercising. So it's only in retrospect I've learned why. So what you eat, what you drink, exercise, suggesting also cognitive behavioral therapy, particularly if you're somebody who's feeling ashamed, stressed about the menopause, if you feel like you're now worthless, that nobody sees you, that you're invisible, all that stuff, then try something like cognitive behavioral therapy. Mindfulness, herbal remedies can support all the other changes as well. So let's just briefly talk about hormone replacement therapy. There have been concerns about health risks in the past, that hormone replacement therapy could cause cancer and so on. but those appear to be unfounded. I think that's largely been discounted now. Interestingly, trials of HRT against a placebo for hot flushes found that over 50% of women on the placebo saw an improvement. So, you know, people see the hormone replacement therapy as a wonder drug. If you believe you're on hormone, you know, but like a placebo works in 50% of women. So it's not such a wonder drug as we thought. It does seem to help with hot flashes, vaginal discomfort, bone loss, but not all the symptoms. And the things we're suggesting here, changing your diet, getting your mind in the right place, exercise and so on, will help across the board and going forward into your old age. Taking HRT doesn't address lifestyle changes needed for other reasons for that healthy, happy old age. So I see your menopause symptoms as a gift. I know that's sometimes difficult to do, and I've had some really angry responses from some women who say, no, it's all down to my hormones and I need HRT. So it's a message about your life and what you need to do to live well now and into a healthy old age. And my final tip, my final piece of advice is buy my books. I've got 2 books, one on weight loss hacks, one on the menopause. Both are looking at the research and then turning that research into practical information about what you need to do. So that's my advice.
That was great. So yeah, tell us, what's the difference between the 2 books?
Well, the menopause weight loss actually covers the whole of the menopause. So it's it also talks about sleep and brain fog and so on and so on and so on. The other book, 190 weight loss hacks, it's looking at the research about what simple lifestyle changes you can make, or simple thinking about things differently, ways you can think about things differently that will help you to lose weight. It's not about dieting and so on. So it's really, really practical things you can apply. And I've got quite a few people who sort of keep the book out and they'll flip through it, read one of the hacks and then go, oh, right, okay, I'm going to apply that. And they apply that. And when that's part of their daily lives, they do another one. I've had people say, somebody said to me, this is a diet I can follow for the rest of my life because it's not a diet. It's just, you know, making these changes, and I've made the changes and they fit into my life and it's fine now. Yeah.
Hey,
And you know, it's based on the research as well. Yeah.
What's on your sweatshirt? Is it a plant?
It's plant-based health professionals.
Oh,
I'm a lay member of the plant-based health professionals.
I had them on for a whole week. We devoted a whole week to them one year. They're wonderful.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So Jane, we actually had people send in questions in advance, and one is from Debbie. And she said, thank you for your very informative podcast. I'm 56 years old and have been in menopause for a few years. I started doing hormone pellet therapy in October of 2021 because I would wake up 4 to 5 times a night with hot flashes. I have not had a decent night's sleep in a few years. I also have extremely low testosterone. The Women's Clinic website says this is an all-natural bioidentical hormone replacement therapy that specializes in the use of subcutaneous testosterone and estradiol pellets. They always check current hormone levels prior to doing inserts. The pellets every 3 to 4 months, along with a nightly prometrium, stop my hot flashes completely. I have committed to fully whole food plant-based this year after dabbling with it for a few years. My goal is to stop the hormone therapies, but I'm scared my symptoms will return and my testosterone will drop again. Is this a realistic goal? And do you know when the right time is to do this? Do you work with people privately ever?
No, I don't. I don't at all. I mean, people ask me to from time to time, but I say no. I mean, I just like what I try to do is inspire and inform people. And, you know, so I like to come on podcasts and YouTube videos and all sorts of things to try and, you know, tell people about this stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult to advise somebody you know, who's got sort of medication, even natural medication going on. So that's really difficult to advise. I mean, you know, I can't give any specific advice, but it does seem that all the information is that, you know, if you look at some of the studies that I've quoted, you know, that one that included the soy, you know, and as well using soya beans and things like that. But there's all this stuff. So, you know, it's a question of, because you need to do it anyway, even if you're taking HRT and it starts to control your symptoms, the fact that you had those symptoms tells you that your body is out of alignment in some way. So you need to make the lifestyle changes anyway. So for Debbie, I think it was, wasn't it? So
Yeah, Debbie.
What I would say is, rather than just sort of focusing on the narrowly on the hot flushes, is to think more broadly about what do I need to do now to get my life in shape for the rest of my life, and look at it much more holistically. So she needs to add in exercise if she's not already doing it, good sleep hygiene, you know, minimizing the use of computers and so on late in the evening, all that sort of stuff.
So maybe she should just embrace the diet and all the lifestyle changes first.
Yeah.
You know, get rid of caffeine and alcohol and all those kind of things, and do the diet and the exercise, and then maybe slowly see working with a health professional if she can get off those medications.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that makes sense, because we cannot give medical advice. So make sure you work with someone. This is from, let me say who it's from. But anyway, somebody wrote it. I think they write it thinking you're a doctor, and you're not, but you might still be able to comment. I'll be 60 this week, and I do bioidentical hormone pellets every 3 to 4. I'm guessing it's either days or weeks. And they have been working great on energy, but more importantly, my libido. Do you have any concerns about this? I'm overall very healthy. Weight is great. I only take progesterone tablets along with the pellets, plus I'm on levothyroxine. I'm trying to think if we've had well, you know, we had Dr. Rachel Rubin on a couple of times. She's a urogynecologist. This might be a better question for her, but what do you know about the pellets?
Yeah, I know very little about them, so I don't actually feel able to comment. I mean, as I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm actually, you know, much more interested in the lifestyle approach to the menopause. And it clearly works because the evidence is there for it, that it works.
Nice. You used to smoke and drink in your youth, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I used to drink like half bottle of whiskey a day and 40, 50 cigarettes a day. And my diet, though it was vegetarian, my diet was toast, marmalade, orange juice, chocolate, a lot of coffee, and then the alcohol and the cigarettes.
Yeah. Well, do you miss them?
Very occasionally I miss a cigarette. I like once every 3 years. I one day last week I was riding home on my bike, you know, and from the gym, and I thought, you know, I'd really like to sit down with a cigarette.
Oh, that's hilarious. I think Dr. Lyle talks about that. I think it's called like the extinction burst or decay function. That's hilarious that it happened. So Jane, almost every guest on the show, whether they're even vegan or not, gets this question: what do you eat in a day, and what do you do personally for exercise? So tell us about your day.
Okay, so I eat whole food vegan. How I describe my diet is whole food vegan with a dusting of vegan chocolate and vegan ice cream. So breakfast is usually porridge with oat milk, with raisins, sunflower seeds, and flax seeds, and coffee, several cups of coffee. I do drink a lot of coffee. Mid-morning, coffee again. I usually have a handful of nuts. Sometimes I have some toast. If I've been to the gym, which I do 3 times a week, I would have a vegan protein shake. Lunch is usually a very large salad. And I do salad. I do pictures of my salads sometimes on Instagram because people always like to see those. So it'd be a raw, mainly raw, with walnuts, beans, and so on. A banana, something like that. Late afternoon, I sometimes have a glass of wine, and then a meal in the evening would be a vegetable bean stew, a chili, jacket potatoes. I like French fries, so sometimes it's French fries, and so on. I sort of have the idea that we should have a 95% diet. So 95% whole food, doing all the right things, and then 5% I have, which is less good stuff.
And what do you exercise every day?
Well, I ride my bike as my main form of transport. So I do about 40, 50 miles a week on my bike. And and then I go to the gym 3 times a week, and I work out really hard. I do weight training. I mean, I deadlift 140, 150 pounds.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think being vegan helps me recover faster. All that fruit and veggie really minimizes the amount of inflammation you get in the body, so that you heal faster, you repair faster, and so on.
Fantastic. So do you do any social media if people want to connect with you, follow
Yeah,
you?
I mean,
if
I
they sign
do.
up?
I mainly Instagram. I put gym videos on to try and inspire other people to believe it's never too late and you can always start, which people really seem to like. So my Instagram handle is @ThrivingJane, and I've got a website which is janethurnell-read.com, where I post blogs about healthy living, weight loss, menopause, exercise, all sorts of things like that as well.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on how you've really improved your health.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
wonderful.
you know, everybody can. It doesn't have to be that difficult. You can do it bit by bit.
Yep. Have you inspired anybody around you, like family, friends, to see how well you're aging, to take the
Oh
plunge?
yeah, I mean, quite a lot of friends have started to do it, and friends have started to eat more vegan, more healthy, and so on. And on Instagram, I mean, I get people say to me, you know, I'm going to start going to the gym. You know, I'm in my 50s. I want to be like you when I'm in my 70s. So I'm going to start going to the gym.
That's great.
Which is always great. Yeah. Yeah. I love
Ginny, who's watching live, says, with the fennel seed recommendation, do you crush them or you just sprinkle them like on the salad?
I mean, however you wanted to have them. Yeah. So you could sprinkle them on a salad, for example. I mean, 2 grams, or what was it, 0.07 of an ounce. I mean, it's a very, I don't know how many that is, but it's not a lot.
And Gina might have joined late and she wants to know, what do you recommend for sleep issues that surround the menopause era?
Okay, so I mean, sleep, it's really about sleep hygiene, all the stuff to do with sleep hygiene. It's about addressing all your lifestyle stuff. I think the important thing is almost to get away from specific problems and just clean up your lifestyle, allowing yourself some leeway. Like, you know, I like vegan chocolate and vegan ice cream, so I allow myself the leeway of that. That may not be your leeway. Your leeway may be, you know, spending a day a week in your pajamas or something. But really, rather than focusing on particular symptoms, is just get your life as sorted out as you can, and then hopefully you stand a much better chance of getting through the menopause well and of aging well.
Yeah, there's a question about what inspired you to make such a drastic life change. Monarch would like to know.
Oh, right. From my 20s, when I was smoking all the cigarettes and drinking, I actually wanted to get pregnant, and I read somewhere, and I've never ever read it since anywhere, and I've searched and searched and searched, but I can't see it anywhere. But there was this thing that said, when you smoke, the fetus in the room, the fetus in the womb is doing practice breathing. At a certain age, it starts to like do what's called this practice breathing. It's not actually breathing air, it's just, you know, moving its diaphragm and so on. But if you smoke, it stops doing that. And I don't know what it was about that just completely grabbed my imagination, because it wasn't at that time, it wasn't that clear how bad smoking was for the health of the mother and of the child. But that really persuaded me to change. And I was smoking very, very heavily. And a very close friend said to me, if you carry on like this, you'll be dead in 6 months. And I mean, her and I used to go out drinking together. So having her say that to me was really scary. And so then I changed. Yeah, it brought me up short and made me realize I need to think about my life and try and get it on a more even keel.
Wow. A lot of questions on vaginal dryness. Is this something you can address?
I don't know of anything specifically for it, and the research there doesn't seem to be a lot of research on what helps with that. I mean, one of the suggestions from research seems to be that people, I'm just trying to think how it's phrased. It's about self-stimulation or stimulation.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Healthy Living. My guest.
Hello.
Sorry about that. My computer just started playing another show. So we're talking about vaginal dryness.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be, there isn't a lot. It was something I looked at when I was writing the book on the menopause, because I'm aware for a lot of women it is a problem. I couldn't come up with anything that was really, really that helpful, other than there was some research that self-stimulation or stimulation by a partner can help. But obviously for some women that makes it worse. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be very helpful there.
Okay, well, we'll have Rachel Rubin back in a few months. Well, thanks so much. It was a pleasure meeting you, Jane.
Thank you very much indeed. I really enjoyed it.
It was really, really fun. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back at 1 p.m. in about an hour when we have Michelle Sen, who's going to be talking about lessons learned from working at the True North Health Center. And I hear that even one person